Brake. Midday heat shimmers above a row of brake lights. 3 triplets weave between cars with sleeves of pure water. Laughter cutting through engine noise. A horn taps, a bill folds. The light ticks toward green. Split screen. On the right, studio lights warm a branded backdrop. A microphone clipped at the collar. A handler whispering, "Ready?" One video changed everything. On the left, plastic crackles, dust, hustle. On the right, cushions, crisp water bottles, and the stillness that follows viral attention. The bridge between them? A stranger at a red light who pressed record. He posted a 30-second clip with a simple caption. An influencer shared it to millions before dinner. A corporate rep called before sunrise. Visibility arrived like weather. Sudden, loud, uninvited. But with the spotlight came exposure risk. Location in the frame, uniforms, faces, names guessed, neighborhoods tagged. Follows spiked, offers stacked, rumors too. In the comments, charity sounded like applause. Dignity asked for terms. Were they being helped or handled? Hold the split screen. Asphalt waves heat. Studio LEDs hum. The same smiles appear in both frames, but the stakes are not the same. Here's the question we will test. When a camera finds kids working, does it build a bridge or cast a net? Visibility versus vulnerability. Charity versus dignity. Viral luck versus structural change. We will rewind the hours around the upload, trace the hands that reached for them, and unpack the decision that turned attention into a plan. Because a video can open doors or open a market for other people's stories. A phone can point toward school fees or toward contracts that cost more than they pay. Applause can feel like rescue and still rearrange who holds the keys. Watch the light turn green. One lane accelerates, another stalls. In the middle, 3 brothers adjust to the wind of a million eyes. The clip loops again on someone's screen. And in that loop, a path begins. From traffic to timelines. From timelines to terms. We will follow it step by step until the picture splits less and their future grows more. Stay with us. Details matter now. What turns a camera into a bridge? Not a net? That is the question guiding this story. To answer it, we will rewind the days around one 30-second clip, chart the swell of attention, and track how 3 kids and their caregiver navigated offers, requests, rumors, and rules. We'll map the exact opportunities that arrived, the risks hiding under applause, and the choices that turned visibility into outcomes with dignity. Here is our promise. We'll tell this with empathy and receipts, favoring clarity over spectacle. We'll reference timestamps, public posts, message logs, and on-the-record statements when available. Where details are uncertain, we'll say so. Where behavior is alleged, we'll label it alleged. Our goal is understanding, not outrage. Agency, not virality for its own sake. Important context. This narrative is inspired by common scenarios. To protect privacy, we do not identify real individuals, locations, or schools, and we avoid any details that could enable doxing. We condense timelines and change non-essential specifics. The patterns are real and repeat across cities. We ask you to engage with the ideas, not to hunt for people. Content advisory. We discuss minors and consent, economic exploitation, and online exposure. If those topics are hard, take care as you watch. We will keep language respectful and include resources for families and young creators later in the episode. Our method is simple. We reconstruct the path from street to screen to studio. The upload at a red light, the influencer share, the first newsroom call, the brand email, the contract packet, and the moment a family decided to slow the rush and design a future. Along the way, we'll examine common pressure points, free gear that requires control of accounts, management that restricts school, exclusivity that cancels local support, and charity narratives that sideline dignity. We'll also highlight safeguards that work. Independent counsel, clear guardianship, child trusts, and education first terms. Expect contrast. Visibility can invite opportunity. It can also expose a home. Charity can bridge a gap. It can also buy a story. Viral luck can open a door. Structural change keeps it open for the next kid. We will return again and again to one test. Does help expand choice or replace it? Who decides the terms? Who gets paid? Who keeps learning? Hold that lens as we move forward. First, we meet the triplets, their caregiver, the passerby who pressed record, and the chorus that followed, helpers and handlers alike. By understanding what each wants and what each stands to lose, the timeline stops feeling random and starts making sense. Then we can measure every offer against the only outcome that matters, a future with options. Next, we build their portraits and name the stakes clearly. Begin with 3 brothers and 1 routine: heat, hustle, and a shared promise to get home with money for dinner. Now add a camera. The oldest, by a few minutes, counts change without looking, eyes tracking plates and gestures. The middle finds customers with a joke and a generous pour into a cup. The youngest watches patterns, reading drivers the way others read books, stepping forward only when it is safe. Together they move like a small company, efficient in chaos, kind by muscle memory. They are triplets, the kind who finish each other's sentences and argue over who remembers the song lyrics right. Work starts after school on most days when fees are paid, before school when money is tight, and always with a plan: 2 sleeves of sachets, a shared water pail, and a meeting point near the shade. They keep a ledger in a cracked notebook. They split earnings evenly, then peel off bills for transport, for phone data, for the rice their caregiver stretches into a meal. Hustle is not a trend, it is logistics. The oldest loves radios. He fixes a neighbor's speaker with a paperclip and a prayer, then sketches circuits in the margins of his homework. He wants to study electronics, to be the person a broken thing meets before the trash bin. The middle loves voices. He mimics the bus conductor, the sportscaster, the pastor, and dreams of sitting behind a microphone with headphones on, telling stories that give people a reason to smile when traffic locks. The youngest loves maps. He memorizes routes and bus stops, knows where shade falls at noon, and wants to be a logistics planner, the person who moves goods quickly without wasting fuel. Their dreams are precise, learned at the curb. Their guardian is the quiet engine. Everyone calls her auntie, whether or not blood agrees. She stretches income by knowing every unit price within 10 blocks. She keeps receipts, keeps school forms, keeps promises. She has a voice that calms conflict and a back that hurts by night from carrying crates at the kiosk. When the clip goes viral, she becomes a gatekeeper by necessity, though she has never used the word. She wants 2 things, enough to cover rent on time, and a path that won't sell the boy's future for a few weeks of applause. The passerby who filmed is ordinary, salaried, tired, generous with smiles. He filmed because the triplets harmonized to sell faster, clapping a rhythm as they moved down the line of idling cars. His caption was simple, something like, "Hustle with heart." He did not imagine what a retweet from a big account can do to a family map. Early amplifiers meant well. An influencer reposts, a radio host invites them for a quick feel-good. A philanthropic page drops a post saying, "Let's bless these kids." Their platforms trade in attention. Attention has rules Auntie does not yet know. With attention arrive would be managers, some sincere, some hungry. DMs promise to run your page, protect your image, secure bags. One asks for exclusivity to stop exploitation, then sends a contract that gives him lifetime rights. Another offers a furnished apartment for stability if the boys will shoot daily content and drop out for a tour. A third wants 10% finder's fee from any donation processed through his link. Every offer saves the day on paper. Many stake a claim to the next decade. Now the stakes. The triplets need immediate income for today's dinner, tomorrow's transport, next week's fees. Education, however, solves next decade problems. Appearances pay cash today, but steal hours from class. Viral fame slams doors and opens others. Schoolmates change. Strangers learn routes. Cameras visit the neighborhood. Sponsors send shoes that don't pay rent. Exposure brings safety risks. Auntie must suddenly manage. Doxing, fake fundraisers, adults asking to take them for a day on set. Safety competes with opportunity. Both are urgent. What can each party gain or lose? The boys can gain school scholarships, safer work, mentors, and proof that their joy has value beyond pity. They can lose anonymity, routine, and the right to fail quietly while they learn. Auntie can gain stability and counsel, She can lose control to people who use her protectiveness as leverage. The passerby can gain likes. He can lose the trust of a family and a neighborhood if his post becomes a problem. Early amplifiers can gain brand lift and goodwill. They can lose credibility if they feed a rescue story that strips agency. Would-be managers can gain content and commissions. They can lose access if the family learns to ask for terms first. Class and platform differences define the conversation. In cooled offices, helpers talk about content calendars, story arcs, and media windows. At the curb, Auntie talks about rice prices, teacher patience, and the bus that leaves at 5. In studios, people argue contracts with air conditioning running. On the street, the boys stack coins while sunburn peels their noses. Neither world is immoral by default. The harm arrives when one world insists the other translate fast, free, and forever. Community support systems already exist around the family. Neighbors who extend credit for hours a week, a coach who insists homework comes before drills, a kiosk owner who trades extra sachets for sweeping. A resilient web holds them up, thin but real. Viral attention can strengthen that web with school fees, a safe cart with permits, and an auntie stipend. It can also tear the web by relocating decision-making to strangers who own microphones. Hold these portraits as we move forward. Every choice we chart will sit between two clocks: money now versus schooling later, mentions versus privacy, PR cycles versus childhood. The right path is not charity that buys a story. It is investment that buys time to learn. The next section maps how a 30-second clip became a storm and how the family learned to steer. It began at a red light, where engines grumbled and heat shivered above chrome. 3 brothers approached a window with sleeves of water, a chorus of pure water, braided into a rhythm they made up on the spot. The driver smiled, the signal held, and 30 seconds opened wide enough to change a week. The meet-cute was not a performance, yet it felt like one. The middle brother cracked a joke about the traffic baking bread on the hood. The oldest snapped a beat against the sachets. The youngest turned the beat into a chant that rhymed the driver's plate letters with the word for hope. A small crowd of waiting faces turned toward the music, and the line of cars softened. The passerby held his phone at chest height, hesitated, then tapped record. He worked a steady job, commuted the same road, and had learned to keep his windows up. But the chant felt like a handshake, and his finger moved. The frame caught laughter, the quick exchange of coins, and a final salute as the light flicked green. He saved the clip without a caption because the story looked complete. At 5:42 p.m., once the commute began to clog, he posted. He wrote, "Hustle with heart," added a water drop emoji, and hit share. Within 2 minutes, 3 likes landed. Within 10, a neighborhood page asked to repost. The boys had already moved 2 intersections down, unaware that a small circle of screens had started to ripple out. The first comments were simple, then specific. "These kids made my day. Where is this? Who knows them?" Someone tagged a radio producer. Someone else joked that the boys had better choreography than the morning show. A thread debated whether children should be selling water at all. The algorithm smiled at the argument and pushed the clip farther. By 6:15, a micro-influencer with a penchant for feel-good street clips reposted the video with a caption that reframed the moment as proof of resilience. Her audience amplified the joy. Her critics flagged the ethics. The clip jumped platforms. A short thread translated the chant into English and back again. A sports account clipped the salute and wrote, "Sign them." The reach grew less local, more abstract. To understand why the video resonated, you have to understand the pure water economy that frames the scene. It is informal, fast, and brutally transparent. A crate arrives at dawn. Sachets chill in a basin. Sellers fan out to corners where the sun writes hard rules. Margins are thin. If heat rises, sales rise. If rain comes, everyone loses money. Kids step in during school breaks. Adults depend on the rhythm year-round. The triplets routine fits that map. They buy at wholesale from a kiosk auntie trusts, aim for the busiest lights, and calculate how many sleeves they must sell to buy notebooks next week. Their charm is not strategy. It is survival flavored with humor. The chant at the window worked because it respected the exchange. Value first, then a laugh, then a sale. The camera found a moment that happens 100 times a day and made it legible to strangers. At 7:02 p.m., a larger influencer folded the clip into a compilation with the caption, "Joy in the small things," and the number leapt. A music producer offered beats in the comments. A reporter asked for contact. A sports team account promised tickets. Somewhere in the drift, a donor offered to pay school fees if someone could verify details. Auntie's name entered private messages without her consent because a neighbor thought it would help. The passerby updated his caption to add, "DMs flooded. I don't know them personally." That honesty slowed nothing. The platform recommended the clip to people who rarely see street work except through a windshield. Feelings split along familiar lines: admiration for hustle, worry about child labor, cynicism about performative giving. The algorithm tasted friction and served seconds. Overnight reach had begun, indifferent to nuance and hungry for engagement. Meanwhile, the triplets finished their shift, counted coins, and walked home tracing long shadows. They had not checked a phone since noon because data costs money. They ate, washed, and fell asleep under a ceiling fan that ticked like a metronome. Auntie scrolled a borrowed device and saw their faces beneath blue checks. She put the phone face down, then picked it up again. Attention could be a ladder. It could also be a trap. At 8:03 the next morning, the clip entered a breakfast show rundown. A producer messaged the passerby for a number. At 8:27, a youth NGO tagged the account and offered to coordinate support. At 8:41, a marketing intern at a beverage company flagged the post in a group chat. At 9:12, a cousin sent Auntie a voice note, breathless, saying, "They are on my timeline. Everyone is asking for you." The day tilted. Local context colored every invitation. Street vending is tolerated where traffic slows, but policed when officials need a show of order. School attendance is praised, but schools forgive lateness when families must choose between fees and food. Charities offer scholarships, but sometimes request content in return. Media offers segments, but rarely budgets for transport. The family stood at the busy junction where good intentions meet systems that reward speed over care. The video traveled because talent met timing. The boys' harmony, the sun on chrome, the pause before green, the salute that looked like a signature. It all read cleanly on a small screen. Yet, what reached millions was not their ledger, their bus schedule, their teacher's patience, or the cost of notebooks. The algorithm prefers appetite to context. It devours feeling and leaves policy on the plate. Auntie answered one call that afternoon and agreed to nothing. She wrote a short list on the back of a receipt. School first, safety first, counsel first. The passerby apologized for the mess he had not intended to make and offered to help manage calls. A neighbor suggested speaking to the head teacher before any studio. The boys, given a phone for the evening, watched the clip and laughed at their own timing. It felt like a mirror and a funhouse at once. Tomorrow brought offers and pressure. Now the red flags gathered fast. Attention arrived before breakfast. Pressure arrived by lunch. By 9 a.m., inboxes the family had barely used were stacked with DMs, emails, and missed calls. A beverage brand requested a meeting to celebrate hustle and offered a hamper and a small stipend. A morning show wanted the boys on set for 5 minutes of joy and promised exposure. A youth nonprofit invited them to a studio for orientation. The messages sounded like applause written in corporate fonts. Some were genuine. Others hid claims behind kindness. According to screenshots Auntie saved, 3 accounts claimed to be agents within the first day. 2 used stock photos and asked for a passport scan to prove identity. 1 proposed a 12-month exclusivity that would grant him lifetime rights to the boy's story in any format. Allegedly, he promised to stop exploitation by blocking all other contacts and routing every gift through his office, minus a management fee. Auntie replied with one sentence, "We do not sign today." He sent a last chance timer emoji. Brands shifted from emojis to calendars. A sneaker company offered pairs in exchange for a quick fit session live on air at a mall activation. A bank proposed a scholarship announcement on stage, but the small print allowed them to use the boys' images in perpetuity without additional payment. Confirmed by the email header, the subject line read, "Opportunity you can't miss." The body did not mention tutors, transport, or schedules. It mentioned deliverables, tags, and a reel by Friday. Media invitations multiplied. A talk show sent a car and an assistant who introduced herself as security. She escorted the family past other guests and parked them in a green room with crisp snacks and colder air than they were used to. The boys smiled at the cameras. Auntie signed a guest log. Then a producer slid a release across the table. Allegedly, the form granted the network the right to reuse the segment indefinitely, re-edit the footage, and syndicate it without further consent. No child performer permit was mentioned. The pen hovered. Auntie asked to take the form home. The room tilted, and the escort's smile stiffened. Protection versus surveillance showed up in small choreography. At one event, confirmed by photos, ushers placed the boys in a VIP booth separated from their friends by a ribbon and a staffer. Auntie was seated 3 rows back to avoid crowding the shot. The boys were told to wave at the camera and avoid drinking from unbranded sachets. When they stood to find Auntie during a break, a handler guided them back with a gentle hand on a shoulder. Ease. The gesture read as care. The effect was control. Phone and social rules appeared wrapped as help. "We'll run your page," one manager promised, requesting passwords to keep imposters out. Another offered to upgrade data by moving their numbers onto a corporate plan, which would also allow monitoring for safety. Allegedly, a brand requested pre-approval of all posts for the next quarter to keep messaging aligned. A third pitch asked for daily content in exchange for grocery vouchers, with a clause allowing the company to repost without credit. The boys understood water margins. These margins were harder to see. The rescue narrative crept into headlines. From street to studio. "Kind nation saves triplets," read one. "Orphans rewarded for hustle," read another. Though Auntie is very much alive and present. A radio host joked that the boys could retire their sachets now that real money had arrived. The praise flattened the family into a project. Dignity lost ground to brandable pity. When Auntie asked a reporter to include the school's name and request cash be paid directly to the bursar, the team cut that line before broadcast. A more serious red flag appeared in the form of relocation. Allegedly, a boarding school across the border offered 3 scholarships if the boys would move within 2 weeks and film arrival content. A sponsor would cover visas and flights. The packet included a guardianship letter asking Auntie to assign temporary custody to the institution. No budget for return travel or holidays was specified. A guidance counselor who saw the packet noted that such transfers often disrupt legal identity documents and make reunification expensive. Opportunities shone. Roots trembled. Fake fundraisers surfaced by day 2, confirmed by platform links. At least 4 pages used the boys' clip to solicit donations into personal accounts. One page promised 100% to Auntie, but would not provide a receipt. Commenters asked for proof. The page owner blocked them and bought ads. Meanwhile, a local journalist posted the street corner's name, and curious strangers began to drive by, phones out. Doxing is not always malicious. It is often careless. It is also dangerous. Inside the surge, some helpers tried to bypass Auntie. A self-styled fixer messaged the boys' teacher and asked to collect them for urgent media without a guardian. Another told a neighbor that Auntie is overwhelmed and that he would handle payments. He arrived at the house with a cameraman. Auntie met him at the door and repeated her line, "We do not sign today." He left flyers that listed a contact that was not hers. Private pressure hides inside public praise because everyone assumes the smile is safety. At a stadium event, the boys were given lanyards and told to sit by the stage. They wore the sponsors' shirts. They did not wear microphones. The MC told a story of rescue and invited the brand head to present a check for education. Confirmed by video, the check was oversized and photogenic. The actual transfer required opening an account controlled by the sponsor's foundation. Dissolving the fund would require the sponsor's approval. Auntie asked for a trust with 2 signatories and school disbursements paid directly. The room delayed, then promised later. Later is a tactic. The offers that mentioned school first were easier. A teacher consortium proposed tutoring and insisted on short, daytime media while school was out. A small tech firm offered laptops with no content requirements. An NGO suggested setting up a child trust with a local bank and provided a lawyer's number. Those notes were rare, quiet, and practical. They competed poorly with confetti. Algorithms award volume. Resilience prefers paperwork. Physical safety sharpened the calculus. A crowd gathered at the corner one afternoon, filming the boys as if they were performers and not children working. A driver grabbed a sleeve without paying to test the sachets and posted a clip laughing. A motorcycle clipped a crate when riders swarmed for selfies. Auntie called the boys home early and tacked a note over the door. "School tomorrow. Please let us rest." That night, strangers knocked anyway. Amid the whirlwind, a glossy contract packet arrived by courier, tied with a ribbon. Confirmed by delivery receipt, it came from a talent agency with real clients and office space. The terms looked official and dangerous. The agency would protect likeness, develop brand, and secure stability. It would also take 20%, hold all passwords, approve any public statements, and collect donations on behalf of the family for distribution at its discretion. An arbitration clause required disputes in a distant city. A non-disparagement clause forbade public complaints. The deadline read 48 hours. Generosity versus strings. Protection versus surveillance. Public praise versus private pressure. Each pair defined a fresh invitation. Some people genuinely wanted to help. Others wanted content. Many simply followed a template that treats attention like a commodity and families like assets. The boys kept smiling because children are asked to be grateful when cameras appear. Auntie kept a list and a calm face. Quietly, she called the head teacher, the neighbor who knows a lawyer, and the passerby who felt responsible. If a camera can be a bridge, this was the moment to build one with rails. The family needed a plan that preserved school, safety, and dignity before any stage. The early signs had taught them a pattern. Offers that insist on speed take more than they give. Offers that invest in process still feel like help when the confetti is gone. The next step was not another interview. It was counsel, documents, and a pause button. What came next would decide whether viral luck became structural change or just another story consumed and forgotten. Next, we reconstruct the compressed timeline and the turning point that followed. Virality runs like a siren. Clarity speaks whispers. Hour 1 tasted like surprise, hour 12 like opportunity, and by hour 72, the difference between help and handling was visible to anyone willing to read the fine lines. We reconstruct that first week as it unfolded, not to marvel at numbers, but to understand how a family turned a storm into a map. Hour 0 to 12. The clip posts at evening rush, gathers local likes, and tips into a trending lane by dawn. A chart in the passerby feed shows a sharp slope up. Neighbors share. A teacher texts, proud and worried. Numbers rise faster than context. Hour 12 to 24. An agency courier delivers a ribboned packet with a deadline. A beverage brand calls with a hamper and a stipend. A stadium event promises a check for education. Neighbors stop Auntie to say well done and to warn her about strangers with cameras. A teacher texts, proud and worried in equal parts. The triplets attend one event, wave at a crowd, and go home with swag and questions. The night ends with a kitchen table and a stack of papers. The late-night discovery begins at 12 past midnight. Auntie reads every line with a pen and a borrowed dictionary. Clauses control image and passwords. Donations route through accounts the family does not own. A relocation option appears in a footnote about schools. A penalty fee activates if they speak publicly about a dispute. Arbitration sits in a city far away. There are promises of protection and development. There are very few promises that protect school. The whisper grows louder than the applause that filled the day. Morning of day 2, the decision forms. Slow down. Bring counsel. Build rails. Auntie calls the head teacher, who calls a community lawyer, who calls a children's rights group. They meet at a community center before lunch. The table is plastic, the advice precise. No signatures without independent counsel. No password sharing. Create a single inbox. Turn off direct messages. Post one official note that thanks supporters, names a process, and returns the focus to education. By afternoon, the post is live. It reads like a boundary, not a broadcast. Thank you for your kindness. We will not sign today. All offers must respect school. Direct support goes to a named account at a local bank. For interviews, please email this address. The passerby pins the post on his feed and deletes comments that ask for locations. A digital safety volunteer helps set up two-step login, moves old photos to private, and scrubs metadata that could reveal routes. Day 2 into Day 3. The first television appearance happens on their terms. No location details, no pressure to cry on cue, no surprise guest, and a release that limits use to one broadcast and the show website. Auntie sits just off camera. The host asks what they want. The middle brother says school. The oldest says tools. The youngest says a safe cart with a permit, so no one needs to run between cars again. The producer nods and gives them time to finish sentences. The same afternoon, the bank and a local foundation set up a simple child trust with dual signatures and a clear purpose. School fees will be paid directly to the bursar. Donations will be receipted and reported. An Education First budget covers books, uniforms, transport, tutoring, and a modest stipend for Auntie. A lawyer drafts a guardianship letter that confirms Auntie as decision-maker and outlines the limits of any third-party role. The document becomes the family North Star whenever a new offer arrives. Community reactions sort by pattern. Some neighbors swell with pride and bring food. Some resent the cameras, and fear attention will invite police crackdowns on vendors who cannot afford permits. Online, people argue about poverty and personal choice. A columnist praises boundaries and calls out predatory clauses. A radio host apologizes on air for calling Auntie an orphan. The mix is noisy. The family keeps the focus narrow. School first, safety first, counsel first. Everything else is weather. The turning point comes late on Day 5 when the glossy agency sends a countdown email. 48 hours left, it says. Then their rep forwards a draft post for the boys to publish, thanking the agency for securing their future. Auntie sees the move clearly now. The post is not about protection. It is about control. She replies with a short note from counsel. Decline. Remove our images from your materials. Direct donors to the trust. And do not contact the children without the guardian. Night settles, and with it a quiet clarity that feels like relief. The head teacher brings tea. The community lawyer reads the relocation packet again and underlines what is missing. There is no holiday plan, no local contact, no budget for returns, and no mention of preserving ties to home. The children's rights group suggests a local school scholarship with transport and tutoring instead. By midnight, Auntie writes a simple line on the back of an envelope. We will stay. We will study. We will choose partners who honor that. Day 6 opens with a public update. The family thanks supporters, declines relocation, and lists the boundaries that will govern any collaboration. No exclusivity, no password control, no unpaid content, no long-term rights, no travel without school approval, and no signatures without independent counsel. They ask that donations be sent only through the foundation, and that media refrain from naming the street. It is not a manifesto. It is a blueprint. Shares are fewer than the original clip, but the quality of messages improves. Within hours, the platform removes several fake fundraisers. The passerby posts a thread about consent and opens his inbox to forward serious inquiries to counsel. A small tech firm offers laptops with prepaid data and no content requirements. An NGO agrees to fund a term of school and tutors through the trust. The stadium booker calls back and offers a quieter visit where the boys will tour, learn, and leave with tickets rather than stand for a check. The storm has not passed, but the family now stands inside something they designed. By the end of the week, attention has slowed to a manageable hum. The boys return to class with new notebooks and a plan for afternoons that replaces hazardous lanes with a safer cart near a licensed market. The head teacher announces the scholarship process at assembly, so future help can be routed for other students too. The triplets film one short thank you at school and head home before homework. The difference between rush and design is small to an algorithm and enormous to a life. The party noise will come back in waves. The map will still hold. Next, we move into immediate consequences and aftermath. Clarity needs proof. Proof needs a plan. That night, the family turned noise into records. They screenshot DMs, saved contracts as PDFs, and filmed a slow scroll of each page for redundancy. Timestamps, sender names, and letterheads went into a shared folder with a name only Auntie, the teacher, and the passerby knew. A witness stayed on the phone while Auntie read the most troubling clauses aloud, so memory became a log. Passwords changed. Two-factor switched on, location tags scrubbed. When curious cars began to circle, a neighbor walked them to a taxi, and the boys slept at an aunt's room 2 streets away. At first light, counsel and an advocate met them at the community center. The morning produced structure, a guardianship affirmation, a letter directing all media to an adult, a child performer permit for limited appearances, and a request to schedule interviews after school hours only. The bank opened a simple child trust with dual signatories and a bursar first disbursement rule. The email alias went live. DMs closed. A single phone carried a new SIM solely for offers. By noon, Auntie had a binder labeled School Safety Process, with copies of every form and a checklist for any future meeting. The first ethical partnership arrived quietly. A local education foundation agreed to pay a term of fees and tutoring directly, asked for no content, and accepted periodic receipts as the only deliverable. A small tech firm provided 2 laptops and prepaid data with no strings. A beverage brand that had rushed a hamper returned with a revised proposal, a one-time stipend, a safety kit for the cart, and no exclusivity. Council added a clause forbidding image use beyond a single thank you post. The family accepted, then went home for homework. Public statements were measured and brief. A pinned note thanked supporters, listed the trust details, asked people not to share locations, and reminded media that the children were students first. A second post reported fake fundraisers to the platform and asked donors to seek receipts. All posts pinned the guidance. The breakfast show clipped the earlier interview to remove an identifying sign and updated its caption to reflect the trust. Visibility stayed, velocity eased, status management pushed back. One sponsor drafted a press release calling itself the official partner and sent an NDA to protect reputations. Council replied with edits, remove exclusivity language, retract claims, and drop the NDA. The brand softened the copy and published a modest note. Another outlet asked for a tearful follow-up. Auntie declined and offered a school visit instead. Several fake pages were shuttered, and the platform issued refund guidance to donors. The next 24 hours felt calmer because boundaries had paperwork. Attention can feel like love. At scale, it behaves like weather. It sweeps in, warms faces, and knocks things over, then moves on. The triplets week sits inside that storm. To decode what happened, think in patterns, not episodes. Love bombing at scale, coercive control disguised as coordination, financial extraction wrapped as opportunity, and social scripts that reward speed over consent. When you recognize the templates, the red flags stop looking random and start reading like a playbook. Start with love bombing at scale. In relationships, it is sudden intensity, gifts, praise, urgency that accelerates attachment. Online, the mechanism is similar, just louder. Likes, reposts, hampers, car rides, countdowns. The velocity feels flattering, but the function is compliance. Many offers employ language that collapses time. Now, last chance, can't miss. Healthy support expands choices and slows decisions. Unhealthy attention compresses them and frames hesitation as ingratitude. The moral isn't to fear generosity. It is to test whether a no is acceptable without retaliation or shame. Next, coercive control risks in kid talent deals. Control does not always look violent. It often looks organized. Handlers gate access for safety. Release forms swap consent for blanket rights. Relocation proposals put distance between children and their community. And social policies rebrand surveillance as protection. According to child safety advocates, minors are especially vulnerable when adults who manage logistics also control information and transport. The litmus test is symmetry. Do rules protect the child's agency, schooling, and relationships, or do they consolidate power around a brand timeline? If the system breaks only one way, toward content and compliance, the child is being managed, not mentored. Financial exploitation rarely announces itself. It hides inside standard clauses, perpetual image rights, exclusivity across categories, unilateral control of donation flows, approval gates for any public statement, and arbitration far from home. According to nonprofits that track family finances and entertainment, many disputes begin with vague terms and end with lost access to earnings. For children, unpaid exposure has a second cost: time pulled from school. A stipend that ignores tutoring, transport, and rest turns prosperity theater into debt, paid in grades and health. So what does ethical practice look like when minors are in the frame? Basics are remarkably consistent across regions. A parent or legal guardian makes decisions in the child's best interests, with independent legal counsel advising before any signature. Some jurisdictions require child performer permits and limit hours. Several require that a percentage of earnings be deposited into a blocked trust the adult cannot access. Coogan-style accounts, two signatory trusts, and bursar first disbursement rules prevent leakage. Every engagement should be education first. Schedules around school, tutors funded before swag, transportation and chaperones planned, and a clear-off switch the family can activate without penalty. Timing is its own ethics. Last-minute documents are coercive because they weaponize urgency and asymmetry. A deadline compresses options, reduces consultation, and exploits the power gap between a polished institution and a family new to media. In contract law, voluntariness requires meaningful opportunity to review, understand, and negotiate. In child context, the bar should be higher. Plain language summaries, waiting periods, separate counsel, and absolutely no signatures at events or on camera. If a partner insists on instant agreement, they are selecting for compliance, not care. Virality itself encourages the wrong tempo. Public datasets and platform transparency reports show that most posts achieve the bulk of their lifetime reach within 48 to 72 hours. Attention decays quickly unless new controversy reignites it. Brands know this, which is why real-time marketing leans on fast approvals and pre-written talking points. Cause-adjacent posts also deliver measurable brand lift, increasing awareness and favorability for the sponsor, even when the beneficiary's gains are modest. The ethics demand a counter-rhythm. Pause, review, design, and accept that some spotlights are not worth standing under. Then there is the debate over poverty porn, a shorthand for content that harvests sympathy from images of hardship. Critics argue that such storytelling centers the savior, erodes dignity, and trains audiences to consume pain as entertainment. Supporters claim it mobilizes donors who would otherwise scroll past. The question is not whether to show need, but how, with consent, context, and community agency, or as a backdrop for rescue narratives. When the boys are reduced to symbols, their names vanish behind hashtags. When the family sets terms, they become collaborators rather than props. Age, class, and gender scripts make pressure feel normal. Adults are assumed to know best. Children are expected to be grateful. People with offices are read as credible. People with kiosks are treated as lucky. Caregivers, often women, are praised as saints until they ask questions. Then they are called difficult. According to social research on media perception, viewers overvalue polished signals of trust and undervalue lived expertise. That bias invites managers to talk over auntie while claiming to speak for the boys. The antidote is procedural. Written boundaries, independent advisors, and a rule that every meeting begins by asking the children about school. Seen through this lens, the week makes sense. Love bombing created momentum. Coercive structures tried to convert momentum into control. Financial terms sought to centralize revenue and narrative. Social scripts rewarded helpers who moved fast and penalized guardians who asked for time. The family's pivot, counsel, trust, permits, education first rules, broke that script. It turned attention from a net into a bridge with rails and a speed limit. Sustainability beats spectacle. The romance of rescue narrative promises transformation through a single viral moment, starring a benevolent brand and grateful beneficiaries. The Sustainability Playbook promises progress through infrastructure, documents, accounts, schedules, and accountability that outlive any clip. The first centers the giver. The second centers the child. We carry two questions into the practical portion that follows. First, does an offer expand autonomy in education without demanding silence or control? Second, does the process survive when the feed cools and the cameras move on? If yes, it is a bridge. Next, we translate these patterns into a checklist, scripts, and a safety plan families can deploy in real life. Durable futures come from blueprints, not bursts of applause. This section is about turning a viral boost into a plan you can live inside, without shame and without debt to strangers. The aim is simple. Give families language, tests, and steps that keep school first and safety intact, while still welcoming partnerships that honor dignity. The difference to watch is this. A dream boost flatters for a moment. A durable blueprint builds rails you can walk tomorrow. We choose the blueprint. Red flags often wear friendly clothes. Be wary of fake agents who ask for passport scans, insist on exclusivity, or promise to stop exploitation while claiming lifetime rights to your story. Treat any request for passwords, account migration to a corporate plan, or pre-approval of every post as a bid for control. Pause when relocation is tied to filming, when big checks require a foundation, or when releases grant perpetual image use across all media. Contracts that forbid public complaints, push disputes to faraway cities, or punish speech with fees are pressure tools, not protection. Most of all, distrust countdowns, surprise documents, and any meeting where you are told to sign on camera. Use quick tests to sort help from handling. Can we say no today without losing the offer tomorrow? Can we ask for time and independent counsel and get a calm yes? Are school hours protected in writing, with transport and tutoring first? Do payments go to a child trust with 2 signers and direct disbursement to the bursar? Do we keep our own logins, with 2-factor on and 1 public inbox we control? Are rights limited by time, purpose, and platform, not forever across the world? Is exclusivity narrow, short, and optional? If these answers lean wrong, step back until they do not. Families need lines they can speak once, calmly, and repeat. Try, thank you for the invitation. We will review with counsel and respond next week. Try, no signatures today. Try, school comes first. Please schedule after classes and exams. Try, we do not share passwords. Send assets and requests to the email on our page. Try, direct education support to the bursar through the trust. We do not accept cash. Try, no relocation without a trial period, a local guardian, and paid returns. If the tone shifts when you set these boundaries, you have your answer. Real partners respect a pause. A safe exit from a predatory offer is boring on purpose. First, document everything. Save copies, record a screen video of each contract page, and forward files to a trusted adult outside the room. Second, stop private calls and move all contact to one email you control. Third, post a short boundary note thanking supporters and stating that no signatures will be made until counsel reviews. Fourth, change passwords, enable 2-factor, and remove any numbers from corporate plans. Fifth, notify the school so staff can redirect surprise visitors and confirm attendance plans. Sixth, move to a safe address for a night if strangers are circling. Finally, ask counsel to send a decline and take down notices, and report fake fundraisers to the platform. A fair deal for minors begins with process, not vibes. Each agreement is reviewed by independent counsel chosen by the family, with time to think, no cameras. Terms are in plain language and cover scope, location, and time limits on image use. Anything forever is a no. Payment flows into a child trust with 2 signers and receipts for disbursements, and school fees go directly to the bursar. Work happens after classes, within legal limits, with a chaperone and safe transport. Deliverables are modest, and a simple off switch the family can use without penalty. No passwords are shared. Partners send assets to family, not the other way round. Relocation requires a trial period, a local guardian, paid visits home, and a clear path back. Arbitration sits near home, and disputes can be raised without gag orders. Most of all, the child's voice counts. You do not need to navigate this alone. Local child protection hotlines can advise on safety and consent even when no crime has occurred. Legal aid clinics and bar associations can connect you to family and media lawyers who understand minors and urgency. Community foundations can host a trust and issue receipts. Creator unions and collectives publish model clauses and can flag predatory terms. Digital safety groups help with takedowns, privacy settings, and platform escalation. School social workers and counselors can adjust schedules, track attendance, and coordinate tutoring. Journalists' networks and ethical media centers can guide fair interviews and protect locations. When you ask early, support arrives before problems harden. Empowerment beats apology. You do not owe gratitude that costs your voice. It is reasonable to ask for receipts, to insist on counsel, to set times that match school, and to decline cameras that do not respect boundaries. Speed is a tactic. Design is a shield. If a partner values you, they will honor a pause, put promises in writing, and agree to limits that keep learning and safety whole. A viral moment can be a bridge, but only if you choose the rails and the speed limit. Keep the focus on the future you want, not on the spotlight others want. Choose the durable blueprint. Keep your names, keep your routes private, keep your options wide. That is not defiance. It is care. Opportunity should expand autonomy, not replace it. That is the principle at the heart of this story. 3 brothers and 1 caregiver navigated a surge of attention by choosing rails over speed, school over spectacle, and dignity over headlines. They did not reject help. They designed it. Every boundary they set was a door with hinges, not a wall. When people respected those hinges, resources flowed. When people tried to remove them, the family stepped back and kept their names, their roots, and their future intact. Let's say this clearly for anyone planning to help the next family in a spotlight. Money and mentions are loud. Mutual respect and long-term investment are quiet, and they are the only things that last. Contracts are not villains. Good ones protect children, fund learning, and limit risks. Secrecy and pressure are the problem. Surprise documents, countdowns, and exclusivity framed as safety. If your support requires silence or control, it is not support. It is strategy tested on people who deserve better. The community around this channel values clarity over clout. If you found useful language here, carry it. If you have power, use it to widen choices, not to curate gratitude. Ethical amplification looks like verifying before sharing, protecting locations, paying schools directly, and letting families say no without penalty. A platform can be a bridge when it refuses to be a net. This is how small decisions become real change. Paperwork done right, schedules that center class, and promises honored when the feed cools. Here is our one question for you, and we ask you to answer in one sentence if you can. When a story like this crosses your feed, what is one concrete step you take to make sure your help expands choice rather than control? Your answers become a public toolbox for the next caregiver who needs words at a crowded desk, a link to send, or a single sentence to end a meeting kindly but firmly. If this resonated, subscribe and stay with us. We release weekly deep dives that pair empathy with receipts and end with tools you can use. Next episode, we will break down ethical amplification and how to vet offers, verification checklists, model messages, and the exact clauses that keep autonomy intact. Turn on notifications so you do not miss it. And share this video with someone who might be standing in a storm right now. Your attention can do more than trend. It can build. Thank you for watching and for meeting these stories with respect. May every viral moment you touch become a long arc of learning, safety, and choice. And remember, the boys are not a brand. They are students with a map and a morning bell. Hold platforms to that standard. If you comment, keep locations out. If you donate, ask for receipts. If you share, add the trust link, not guesses. Opportunity should lift steady, not spike and crash. Choose the long path with them, today, tomorrow, and always.